Hello everyone. I am Neha Bhutcher. I am the CEO of Atom11, and welcome to the very first episode of AdVantage with Atom11. So, AdVantage is a weekly webinar series that we are starting out. In this webinar series, we are going to be talking about all things Amazon. We have a very interesting line of people, who we want to bring in on this webinar series. We have a very interesting line of topics that we have planned for you. So, a lot of fun stuff coming in. So, stay tuned and make sure that you keep interacting with us, letting us know what kind of topics do you want to listen to or what kind of people do you want to listen from, and we'll make sure that we have it for you. In today's webinar, which is our first ever webinar, I would like to talk about a topic which is one of my favorites, very close to my heart, and I keep hearing a lot of myths around it. So I thought, what better could there be when I could just tell you guys about how to use an advertising strategy which really work wonders for you. So I think we can get started. I'm going to share my screen, and I have some interesting tidbits and strategies planned for you so that I can show them to you. And I'm going to be taking questions throughout. So every 10 minutes, I'll come back, check if there are any questions, and then we'll make sure that we're answering those questions as we go on. Let's get started. Awesome. All right. So today we are going to be talking about tips to setting up a killer day parting strategy. So let's get started. What is day parting? So let me just start from there, just from the very basics. What is day parting and how is it different from other advertising strategies that you have? Dayparting is an advertising optimization strategy which is focused on the customer's shopping patterns. There are multiple types of advertising optimization strategies that you probably use on your daily basis. There is an optimization strategy which is based on target ACOS, or there is an optimization strategy which is based on keyword harvesting, so on and so forth, right? One of those strategies is where you actually look at the customer, see when are they more likely to shop and when are they least likely to shop, and basis that you make a decision on how aggressive you want to go on your campaigns. So it's basically dividing the time of your day or the day of the week basis customers shopping patterns. Let me just give you an example. In the US, for example, early mornings are basically rush times. So shopping time or shopping patterns are going to drop. Afternoon is when a lot of people, they actually start shopping. Evening is family time. People don't shop a lot during that time, so conversions drop. And then at night, mostly around 8 p.m. onwards, people again start shopping because that's the time when kids are off to sleep and people can now spend some time on their phones for themselves. So just by looking at what time is the customer more available to actually make a purchase, you can actually set up different multipliers on your advertising and see when you want to go aggressive and when you want to go less aggressive. Now, why should you be day parting? Few things. One, if you have a limited ad budget, what time or on what things are you going to bet the most on? You're going to be using or betting the most on things which are giving you the most ROAS or giving you the best ACOS, right? It could be a product that's giving you the best ACOS. It could be a keyword. And if you're doing all of that, then why not also use the best time of the day, which is giving you the best ROAS or the best ACOS? Number two, manage the competition. So there are times of the day when cost per click is very high and ad sales are low. At that time, just let the competition shine. And why don't you take the stage when the competition is not available or when they go out of budget, but you have saved your budget for that time of the day? Third, spend more when you sell more. There are days like Mondays, Thursdays when sales skyrocket, Tuesdays when sales actually go down. Do you want to be spending a higher amount of your budget during the time when your sales are high? Do you want to be bidding high? Do you want to be not going out of budget during those days? Then why don't you depart your campaigns so that you can spend more when you sell more and spend less when you sell less? And last, and one of the things which is never discussed is predictability. You will know exactly what action to take if your ROAS or ACOS is going out of your target numbers, right? So bring in that predictability rather than just reactively increasing or decreasing your bids by choosing a more predictable strategy like day parting. Now, I'm going to be busting a few myths. I know this is something that comes in time and again on my LinkedIn feed. People do mention a few things that, hey, I don't want to depart my campaigns because of X, Y, and Z reason. And I want to really take each one of these myths and bust them for you. So let's get started. The first myth that I keep hearing is that dayparting means switching off your campaigns at midnight. Now, this was true way back in 2019 when you did not have enough data to tell you when to switch on or switch off your campaigns. So, what people would do is that they would actually just make a calculation saying, hey, you know what, at midnight, everyone's Amazon campaigns, they are switched on. So CPCs are going to be the highest because everyone is in the race. So maybe I should be switching off my campaigns at that time. But can you just look at the report over here? If you see, just after midnight, you have some very high conversion rates. I would not ask this advertiser to actually reduce their ad spends at midnight or early morning hours. However, for this advertiser, just at late at night, they have their ad conversions drop. So my suggestion to them is going to be you use your day parting or reduce your bids and budgets during this time, which is actually not converting well for you, right? Secondly, with the launch of hourly sponsored product data, customers or advertisers actually have access to this hourly report. So now they can actually make the decisions that we are making out of this spreadsheet, for example, to see, what action to take when. So I hope that this example kind of clears off a myth that day parting doesn't just mean switching off your campaigns at midnight. Second, if everybody dayparts at midnight, the higher CPCs are just going to move from midnight to early morning. What's the point? I'm just going to reiterate. Dayparting is not just about decreasing bids at midnight. It's about increasing your budgets when your sales are high. It's about increasing your bids when your conversions are high. It's about decreasing your bids when conversions are low. Midnight dayparting is just one use case, and not everyone has to follow it. Point number 2, dayparting is not set it and forget it. In this presentation, I'm actually going to show you an example where after about 2-ish months, dayparting actually, the ROAS that dayparting was actually giving you, the better ROAS that that dayparting was giving you, actually started coming down. And so that was a hint to tell the advertiser that, hey, it's time to set up a new dayparting after looking at data. So don't fall for the myth that I'm just going to have to, set it up for midnight. And even if I do it for midnight, all that's going to happen is that my higher CPC is going to move to the morning. Analyze your data and then figure out what time actually works for you the best. And I'm going to actually show you those strategies very soon. The second one and the third one that I hear a lot is that dayparting leads to loss of sales. This is a something that I hear from advertisers who say that, hey, you know what, I get sales throughout the day. Nothing can be farther from the truth. There are always pockets which are low converting where the customer is not really paying attention or just clicking without actually purchasing. If you depart during, secondly, if you depart during high converting hours, that's another time when you can actually lead to loss of sales. This is exactly that we were showing here, right? Where you have a time period, which is midnight, where you are very high converting. If you actually close your sales at this time, or if you depart your campaigns at this time, you are bound to lose sales. So looking at data before actually taking action is super important. I'm going to show you another example right now. This is actually a US brand. And like I said, I've heard this concern so many times from US brands that, hey, you know what, because of time zones, it doesn't really matter for us that, someone is always awake. So really, we need to keep our campaigns on throughout the day. Now, let me show you an example. This is a real example. The purple line is actually the spends. So if you see the spends, they start increasing at, so this is the time axis, and this is the spend axis. This is the ROAS. Now, if you see how the spend is increasing, it starts increasing at 5 a.m. in the morning, and then it's up, and then it starts reducing at around 1800 hours. And if you see the ROAS, which is the green line, you will see that the ROAS is pretty high during until like 1400 hours, but then it starts reducing. And then it starts increasing again at 2000 hours, like 8 p.m. But when it increases, the person is already going out of budget, and so their spends are reducing. Why can't we look at this data and move our budgets from this time period to this time period? And hence, what you are going to see in some time is that your spends are going to go down, and your ROAS is already down at this time, and your spends are going to go up from the 2000 hours to 2300 hours. So you are basically being on at a time when your ROAS is higher, right? So depending on these graphs, and these are some of the data visualizations that we provide on Atom11, these are some of the visualizations using which you can actually take these decisions very, very fast. All right, I'm going to actually move to strategy. So how can you set up your first ever dayparting strategy? Or how can you set up your dayparting strategy, which is much more improved than your previous dayparting strategies? Point number one, which is the simplest thing of all, which I think everyone should do. You should go to your Seller Central, you should go to your business reports and download your last 30 days of day-on-day data. You should find a day of the week when your sales tend to be the highest. For example, for this specific brand, Mondays and Saturdays are the highest sales. So what we've done for this brand, or what this brand basically, the agency has done for them, is that they increase the bids and budgets on the days where their sales are highest. That's point number one. Point number two, then you go ahead and you figure out from your hourly sponsored product campaign report, just make a simple pivot on the time of the day and figure out when are your conversions the lowest. For example, in this particular case, conversions are lowest during this time, which is about 1700 hours to about 2300 hours. So no point really spending a lot of time during, spending a lot of money during this time. What I would suggest is that you reduce your bids at this time. Next, and this is something that no one does and no one will tell you. After you have found out that there is a specific time which is actually not working for you, I don't suggest that you set up the dayparting rule for all campaigns during this time. This is when you need to go deeper. You go deeper and you create another pivot for all the campaigns for the time period that we have just selected and look at conversions by campaign. Now, in this case, for example, we are seeing that, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, anything that's light green, just leave it out. So these 4 campaigns and these 5, 6 campaigns are something that I would suggest just reduce the bids for these campaigns at the 1600 to 2300 hours time period. Because when you do that, you're actually not reducing bids for a high performing campaign at a low converting time. This is how you can actually completely immune yourself from any loss of sales from your day parting strategy. Again, something that literally no one does in the industry today. People just go ahead and they set up one day parting campaign and then they come back and say, hey, you know what? I lost sales. But the deeper that you go in your data is actually going to give you those insights so that you can set up different types of day parting strategies for different campaigns. All right, I'm going to show you a very quick demo of how you can set up a day parting using Atom11. It's a very quick demo. Just want to tell you that how easy it is to actually, 3 simple steps, actually go ahead and set it up. So this is the Atom11 dashboard. We are an advertising platform, an advertising automation platform. Our USP is that we are retail aware. So we basically bring together data from your inventories, your competition, your pricing, all of that along with your advertising data. And then we help you use that data to create your automations. So let's go ahead and create the departing strategy. Very simple. You'll just go ahead and create a rule. You'll name the rule and you'll select whether you want to create a day parting strategy for budgets or bids. And very soon you will also be able to create a day parting strategy for placements. So let's just go ahead and say, hey, I want to create a rule for budgets. All right. Now comes which all campaigns do you want to set up this strategy for? You can either say all campaigns, or you can say, I want to select the campaigns manually, or you can just upload a list of campaigns that you want to set up. So I'm going to say manually, and let me just select the campaigns that I want to go ahead for this campaign. All right, I have selected the campaigns. I can select the date. I can also schedule my day parting strategy. This is one feature which actually our customers, they use a lot whenever there is a sale event coming in, like Prime Day, or BFCM. Very highly used because they can plan ahead by creating their day parting well in advance. So once you've set up your day parting, you can just go to the next step, which is the last step. Now here, you can just create and set up multipliers. So for example, we want to set up a day parting for, let's say, let's assume that we want to increase budgets. And so let's just add a multiplier of 1.5x at 5 p.m. and you're done. So at 5 p.m., automatically your campaigns are going to be at a 1.5x multiplier, a budget multiplier, and you have created your rule. Now, after 1 week, what we suggest is that you actually evaluate the rule that you have created. For example, for this specific rule, after the rule was created, the customer actually saw that, hey, you know what, my ROAS slightly reduced. So I need to probably either reduce the multiplier that I have used, or I want to change something else, right? So make sure that you are evaluating the rule that you have created, because a lot of people completely forget to do that, especially because there are so many things that you need to do, for your advertising. So what we try to do is that make it very, very easy for you to evaluate the changes that you have made, and so that you are able to make the changes. Once this is done, you're all set up for your first day parting campaign. And if you have questions, you can always contact me. Okay, so we have a question from Yazad. He's asking, how many day parting rules do you recommend that we create per campaign? That's a great question. Per campaign. Great. Okay, so Yazad, I'm going to take you. I think I had this thing that someone's going to ask about it. Now, short answer is that you need at least 2 to 3 different day parting rules per advertiser. But if you're looking at one specific campaign and how many day parting rules per campaign that you want to set up, then basically you need to look at whether you have different objectives on budgets and bids. For example, if you only want to play with your budgets, then basically one rule a campaign works out. But if you also want to look at, if you have a low converting time period and you want to reduce the bids of your campaign at a specific time, but you want to increase your budgets at another time, then you basically need multiple strategies per campaign. I'll give you an example as to when these things happen. The lower the ROAS of your campaign, you can actually go more and more aggressive in your day-parting strategy for that specific campaign. I hope that helps. The higher the ROAS, I think you need to go less aggressive because the campaign is already performing high. So basically, all you need to do is just set up some rules where you can increase your budgets and make sure that the campaign never goes out of budget. Right? But as the ROAS starts lowering down from your target ACOS, go more and more aggressive, figure out what times you can reduce your bids, what time you can reduce your budgets, so on and so forth. I hope that answers your question, Yazad. Awesome. All right. And the last thing that before we get into any of the other details that I want to talk about is that don't set it and forget it. So remember in the beginning of the presentation, I was telling you that there are times when your ROAS actually reduces after a couple of months' time. So for example, in this specific case, you will see that after an initial few weeks, the ROAS actually started reducing. And this is the time when you actually need to go back, stop your day parting, wait for a week, get some data, and then restart your day parting based on the data that you're now getting as a fresh data, right? So make sure that you're not setting it and forgetting it. It's not some kind of an automation which should not be revisited. Absolutely something that you need to revisit every 2 to 3 weeks. Awesome. Now, day parting is very hard to set up on the Amazon advertising console. We've all seen it. It doesn't allow you, Amazon advertising console doesn't allow you to set up bulk day parting. You have to go into every single campaign and then, set up a different day parting rule. Secondly, it doesn't let you bid or budget down. You can only bid or budget up. So I think another thing which, kind of stops people from using those rules is that, just the utility and how walled that feature is basically, in Amazon's favor. So if you are running your day parting and you're using a software to do that, just make sure that there are a few things that are available in the software so that it gives you the best results. One, day parting needs to be available for all 3 campaign types, SP, SB, and SD. It should be available for all levers like bids and budgets. In advanced day parting, it should also include placements, which is something that we are bringing in Atom11. It should be very easy to set up. You need to have data visualization for hourly performance. Please do not set up your day parting if you do not have that data, because you will just end up setting up a rule basis your hunch, which will only lead to loss of sales. It's not a customer-centric strategy anymore if you're not looking at Amazon marketing stream data or your hourly data before setting up your day parting. Next, you should have scheduling options, because those are the options using which you can actually schedule a day parting up for future dates. It's important because you are able to plan ahead. Then number 6 is that you should have the ability to set up day parting for different days of the week as well as time of the day, because days of the week, they have a very high influence on people's shopping behavior. And you will see this from your business reports. I think I have done about 300 to 400. I've seen about 300 to 400 different accounts by now. I've never seen an account which is actually selling, just the equal amount on all days. There is always a couple of days which sell more and a couple of days which sell less than the rest of the week. Lastly, and the most important part, is that you need to have the ability to evaluate your day parting performance. Otherwise, again, you will just set it and forget it. And then in due course, it will start doing harm to your campaigns. So I hope those are the few things that you will take into account when you are either selecting a software or when you are setting up your day parting rules. All right, I'm going to just take a little bit of time to take you through a small case study. We worked with a brand who used Atom11's day parting strategy to actually improve their ROAS by 1.3x over time. And not just that, they did not just improve their ROAS, they actually increased their advertising sales. So let's see what was the pattern that this brand saw through using the Amazon marketing stream data, and what was the action that they took. So the client was actually spending evenly on all days, even though Sundays was the highest sales, had the highest sales velocity. So if you can see all of the days, so this is percentage, basically total sales percentage of total. So Monday's sales percentage of the total sales, and you'll see how this is lower, and then just suddenly Saturdays and Sundays they actually increase in the sales percentage. So Sundays was a higher sales velocity, but they were spending exactly the same amount on all days. And then they found out that through the Amazon marketing stream data that afternoons were actually the lowest converting time for this brand. And they were actually going out of budget during the evenings and midnights. So what they started doing after they saw this data was that they started using dayparting strategy to increase their budgets during Sundays. So all Sundays, their budgets were about 1.5x or 1.3x, depending on what their risk appetite was. I think it was 1.3x. And then the insight too was that they actually used the second part of the data to reduce their bids during the afternoon so that they can improve their ROAS at that time. And within a month's time, so this April is when they actually started using the strategy. They saw a significant shift, a 1.3x shift in their ad ROAS, and a 38% increase in advertising sales solely from Sundays. So the increase in ad sales actually just came from increasing their budgets during Sundays. So this is how this brand actually saw an improvement not just in ROAS but also in ad sales. And I can give you countless such examples where people have actually gone deep using our data, the Amazon marketing stream data that we show, and then created strategies that have really helped them along the way. Another great thing about how people have used Atom11 is that they've actually come back to us and they've asked us to create the strategy for them sometimes, and we help them do that. In fact, if you can leave your email in the chat window today, we are going to send you a complete step-by-step strategy, which will actually take you through all of these steps, where to download this data from, all of that in the next 5 hours. So that's going to be a free giveaway for everyone who has joined the meeting today, or the webinar today. And we'd love to send this out to you. So that is it from our end. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Dayparting 2.0. And we would love to show you, if you guys are interested, if you, to show you a demo of the entire tool. If you're looking to adopt the dayparting strategy. I would love to see if there are any other questions, and then I would probably keep about 5 to 10 minutes for any questions, and then we can wrap up the webinar. All right, if there are no other questions, we would love any feedback that you might have on today's webinar. Like I said, we have many more webinars coming in with sharing expertise from people, from ourselves, from our own experience. So please do stay tuned. Yes. So Yazad's question is, with so many campaigns running and departing rules for each one of them, is there an easy way to monitor which rule is working and which isn't? So, Yaza, that's a great question. So, the part number one that I want to answer is that when you're setting up a departing rule, so I'm going to share my screen once again. When you're setting up a departing rule, you basically set up rules for multiple campaigns in one specific rule, right? So, for example, the rule that we saw here. All right. Let's just go to the this thing. Yeah. So the rule that we saw here, right? So this person has, for example, 4 different rules going on. Now, all you have to do is make sure that you're naming the rule well. For example, this person has named it as sponsored product low performing campaigns, and I'm reducing the budget from this time to this time. And when you now evaluate the rule, in one click of a button, you will know exactly how these 65 campaigns are performing for this rule, right? And when you click on it, you will know whether your performance is going down or going up. So, and that's why I said, right, when you have multiple day parting campaigns, you need to have the ability to actually evaluate how each of these rules are performing. Otherwise, it's just a blind, like you're just playing blind. So, having this evaluate button is super important, especially if you are going deep in your day parting strategy. I hope that answers your question. Perfect. I'm going to take that as a yes. All right. I think that brings us to the end of our first ever webinar. Stay tuned for more webinars, and a topic is going to be announced very shortly. And hope to see you guys soon and more during the rest of the year. Thank you, everyone.